Hello everyone, this is EDC Ghost again, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. So as you can see here, I got several knives. The names and the blade material and price are going to be above each knife, and we're going to be doing how to buy a knife in 2026. This is going to be part one of a I don't know how long series, but in this one we're going to be talking about knife steals, and I'm going to try to stay on topic and not get into handle materials and bearings and locking mechanisms and things like that. So we're going to try to stay on blade materials only. And as you can see here, we have several knives, several different price points, and several different metal materials. So how to buy a knife in 2026, a pocket knife in specific. As you can see here, we have a large price range from $22 all the way up to almost $300. And why is that? Well, it's like buying a pie. That's the analogy I'm going to use. You can buy a pie at the gas station, one of those ones that comes pre-packaged in them little packs, and that's made out of who knows, but it's really cheap and it still tastes pretty good. It gets the job done. It satisfies your hunger for that pie. Or on the other side of things, you can get a pie that your grandmom or mom or whoever made, a pie that's she hand-picked the apples from the tree, she handmade the crust and everything and baked it herself. And that pie, if you were to buy it, is going to be really expensive. It's going to be a really high quality pie, and it's going to taste a lot better and make you feel a lot better than the pie you would get from the gas station or whatever. So that's kind of how it is in blade materials as well. So if you go from the lowest blade material that I have here, which is 7CR17 MOV, you're going to get a really cheap price. And then if you go over here to this Spyderco Para 3 in Maximate, you're going to get a really high price. Let's just open all these up so we can see the blades themselves. Okay, so why would you get a knife that's made from Maximate that costs you $265 when you can get a knife that's made from 7CR17 MOV for $22? And again, I'm going to try to stay on blade types because, of course, this is your standard knife with no lock. And then this over here has a lock, has bearings, and there's more than this to this than just the blade material, but the blade material is the majority of the cost of all of these knives. And when it comes down to it, it's steel hardness and corrosion resistance. So with these knives up here at this higher price range, especially the Spyderco and Benchmade, you're going to get a more residual blade. That blade is not going to dull on you very quickly at all. So you can take this knife that's way up here in this price range, and you can cut and cut and cut forever, and this knife will stay sharp. Whereas you take this knife in this price range, and you can cut the same amount, and this knife will dull a lot quicker. And then corrosion resistance is kind of, like this Maximate material, it is not corrosion resistance. This material will rust. S30V is more corrosion resistance. This 110-420 is a stainless. It's corrosion resistance. The D2, you can see we have two of them here. They are not corrosion resistance. So when it comes down to corrosion resistance, these D2 blades are not going to be as good. The Maximite is going to be the worst corrosion resistance out of all of these knives, but it has the best edge retention. So when you go to corrosion resistance, now these are going to swap around. Not entirely, because I think I would take the 420HC, which we have the two buck knives that are 420HC, and we have the Kershaw here in 8CR13 MOV. These knives are going to be pretty good at corrosion resistance, even the S30V. Now you're wondering what all these numbers mean and things like that, but these are just steel compositions. Some of them are more stainless, some of them have a higher composition of a carbon steel like the Maximate. And then also it goes a lot into heat treatment. So Buck does a great job with their 420HC, which stands for high carbon. And they do a great job with their heat treatment. So you're getting a pretty good steel there. And it all depends on what you want to do. If you're going to do everyday cutting tasks, my favorite steel really is the D2. I really like the D2. It is good for everyday tasks. You've got a really good edge retention, sometimes in that 60 plus range. Although your corrosion resistance is pretty far down there, I've never had a D2 knife ever rust on me or anything like that. I do like Buck's 420HC. It's a pretty hard steel. S30V is really good. Everyone really likes S30V because it has both the corrosion resistance and the edge retention. However, you're going to be paying that higher price range, which is I really like the D2. You can get a $50 to $60, $70 knife, and D2 is going to do everything you want, and you're going to have a great knife. And there's tons of knives in that price range. 2026, I think, is going to be the best year for buying knives at these price range. And there's going to be more steels come about, different steels to buy. So that's going to be fun looking into 2026. But we've got a great range of budget knives in that $50 to $70 range in D2 steel that are going to be great. And I just love D2 steel for that reason, that edge retention. Now also when we get into edge retention, these knives down here in the 7CR17 MOV range, some people don't like that 7CR17 MOV. Some people would even consider that like a trash steel. But I mean, if you're just doing everyday tasks, you're just cutting, this Uncle Henry for $22. My dad carried an Uncle Henry forever, and it did just fine for him. The thing about it is, you're going to have the corrosion resistance, not as well as some of these, but it's still pretty good. Your blade retention is not going to last very long, but this knife is going to be super easy to sharpen. And that's something you got to look into as well. When you get up into these ranges of higher steels where they're harder, they're going to be harder to sharpen. This Maximite is going to be hard to sharpen. This S30V is not going to be as hard to sharpen, but it is going to be harder to sharpen than like these D2 blades or something like that. And maybe even the D2 blade is going to be harder to sharpen than the S30V. D2's got really good blade retention. And when you look at the chart, D2 usually has a higher hardness than the S33. S33 is in the like high 50s, almost 60 range, where D2, not always, but can be in that, into the 60 range. So that's what you got to look into as well. And D2 is not bad to sharpen. I think it's pretty easy to sharpen. All of these steels are basically going to be easy to sharpen, from S30V to D2 to 8CR13 MOV to 420HC. Just this Maximite. And when you get into these ultra premium steels, they are going to be hard to sharpen, but they are going to stay sharp for a long time. Another bad thing is when you get into these ultra premium steels, they're going to be brittle. So I would never say to pry, but if you pry or something with a D2 or a Maximite, that steel is not going to bend. It's just going to snap. It's going to break off. You're going to break the tip off, or whatever. They're kind of, they're hard, so they're brittle in that way, and they will snap. When you lose your edge, usually, and not always, but you won't be like folding this edge. Like if you take this 7CR17 MOV, if you're wearing out this edge, you're usually folding the edge. Or if you wear out this edge on this knife, not a lot of times, but you can just, break the edge almost. But so why would you get Maximite steel versus something in this lower price range when you can get a D2 steel? I mean, they all cut. All these knives will cut. They're all knives, but it's just what you want, and that edge retention. And there's a lot more to how these knives feel and react. But why I got the Spyderco Para 3 and Maximite is just because I wanted that steel. I wanted to see how the steel was. I wanted something premium, in that premium steel range. Basically just a cool factor, I guess. I just wanted the steel. In this range, the Benchmade Bug Out S30V, there's other knives that are S30V that are even cheaper than the $200 Bug Out. I would more go for them. The Bug Out is popular for many different reasons. I think mostly because it's a Benchmade, but it's a light, and Benchmade, came out with that as their light. It's thin, and it has the locking mechanism, which is not new, but that got popular with the Bug Out, in my opinion. So you can get a knife. If you're going to get a budget knife, I would stay with, if you're going to buy a knife in 2026, you're new to the knife world, you're looking at all these steels, and you want kind of a cheaper knife, you can go to the 8CR 13 MOV price range, which in this knife, it starts out at $50, and that's kind of the low end price range. So you're going to get with this a pretty good edge retention. This knife is going to be in that like 58-ish range, but it's going to have pretty good corrosion resistance. So you're kind of going to get an all around with the HCR13 MOV. But again, that is going to be on the low end of knife steels. Other knife steels are going to be on the low end are Oz 8, Oz 10, 1075, 12C27, and 440C. What knives you want to stay away from are Oz 6, 3CR13 MOV, 7CR17 MOV, which we do have a knife in that category. We actually have two knives. You can't see one's off camera, but we'll show it here in a little bit. And that's just, I mean, these are really low end steels. And they are going to work okay, but if you just save up a little bit more, just 20, 30 more dollars, you can really get a lot better knife than what these knives are made out of. 420J2 I would stay away from, 3CR13 MOV, 440A, 440B, and 4116 I'd probably stay away from. If you want something in the good budget range, get something in 420HC, which the buck knives come in, again with a great heat treatment of the buck knives. D2, K110, 14C28N, 9CR18 MOV, ARRP M9, 1095 AEB L, H101, and 52100. And then when you get into the mid-range, Nitro V is a really good blade steel. VG10, 154CM is a really good blade steel. But again, you're going to be starting to get into that $100 range. On the high end of things, you have LMAX, Crewwear, S35VN, S30V, S45VN. So some of those knives and those materials, Spy 27's another one. That's going to be in your high end. That's when you're starting to see $200 price ranges, maybe $150. I don't know if you can get those steels in that price range or not. But those are also really good steels to get. And then you get into your premium price range, and you like get Spyderco's Rex 45, S60V, S90V, K390, M390. So some of those type of steels getting to your premium. And then your ultra premium are like this Maximate, MagnaCut, Damasteel, Damacor, Rex 121, Tungsten Carbide, Dinger Cobalt, Vanex, M398. So some of those specialty steels, you're going to have really, really good edge retention, maybe not good corrosion resistance, but you'll never dull a knife in that range. And another interesting thing is a lot of these steels that were made come from manufacturing other things. So the knife industry kind of stole those blade materials and made a pocket knife out of them. Maximate is a good example. Just reading out of what came with the Spyderco Para 3, and it says your Spyderco's knives made with micromelt Maximate blade steel. This extraordinary alloy is only used by a few knife companies in the world that have chosen to push the limits of cutting performance by working with this demanding material. Maximate is produced by Carpenter, which is a steel manufacturer. Technology Corporation, one of the world's premier suppliers of high-performance steels, they develop Maximate specifically for use in rollers of their state-of-the-art steel rolling mills. Rolling and shaping hot steel demands an alloy that is incredibly hard, tough, and can retain those properties at extreme high temperatures. Maxmet meets those challenges head on and also offers qualities that give extraordinary potential for use in other applications. So you see, when the Maxmet is not was never designed for a blade material. It was designed for rollers to roll out steel. So they need something really tough. They didn't really need something corrosion resistant, but something really tough. And so the knife industry steals that steel, which in my mind is great for the steel manufacturers, because the knife industry can really make those steels popular and gain traction. So I believe the knife industry really makes you see those different steels and make them popular. And as you can see, this is just the chemical composition of that Maxmite. So you have a 2.15% carbon, chromium at 4.75%, silicone at 0.25%, magnesium 0.30%, tungsten 13%, sulfur 0.07, cobalt 10, and vanadium at 6. So, I mean, that's where you're getting your really hard tungsten. So, anyways, if I was going to buy a knife in 2026, I was wondering about all these steels, or maybe I didn't know any of the steels or what to stay away from. Again, I'd stay away from the 3 CR13 MOVs, the 7 CR17 MOVs, the Oz 6, those type of steels. I'd stay away from them. Yes, they may be cheap, but if you just save your money a little bit, you'd be much happier with a 8 CR13 MOV steel or a D2 steel. Even say up your money higher and get something in S30V would be really great, or LMAX or Crewwear, something in those ranges. And everybody has a different opinion about steels and what they like and dislike. But again, my favorite steel right now is definitely the D2. Really like D2. And then speaking of this, we're going to show this is the Gerber Tri-Tip Mini Cleaver. And this knife is actually also in 7CR17 MOV. And this knife is $39. Of course, you're getting a lot of blade steel here. But again, this knife won't stay sharp very long. I got this knife because it looked cool. It's great for chopping like cheese or something like that. I used to keep this in my backpack all the time just to have, basically. But it's not a bad knife. It just dulls quickly, but very easy to sharpen again. So if you have any questions or anything, comment down below, or I'd like to know your guys' opinion, and just like and subscribe, and we will continue on again with the other things that make the knives also in these price ranges, and what makes the premium knives different from these lower budget knives. Thanks again. We'll see you guys next time.